So can they construct, justify, and communicate arguments by considering the context, using examples and non-examples, using objects, drawings, and diagrams, and then I can listen attentively to my peers. I can think about what they have said, and at some level, can you agree, or you see some flawed logic in your peer, and you want to respectfully try to defend your position. That's a big respect. The next one is to model with mathematics. And that has to do with realizing that math impacts every day, every thing that we do. We live it, we need to use it. You calculated, mileage here. We use it in the grocery store. We use it continuously. So it's a living and breathing kind of discipline that they're going to use and they're going to become very good at. So we want our students to be able to make assumptions, estimate, to begin to think about their answers. We want them to use appropriate tools. Do they need to draw a picture? Do they need to think about, and we'll get to it later, some of those other instructional tools that we use in our classrooms, and so we evaluate our answers and make changes if needed. But it's something that we're going to share with them that it's exciting. You're going to use this every day for a very long time, and we're putting into practice now what we'd like you to do. Next one. So we'll go here. It's to use appropriate tools strategically, and you introduce varying levels of visuals as well as instructional tools or manipulatives to help your students see and work with concrete, to go to the representational, to then go to the abstract. So it's important to expose them to the materials, but when to use them and when it's going to be appropriate to use a ruler, a graph, a diagram, an input-output chart, an open number line, a bar model, a clock model, a formula, a thermometer. So you want to make those available to them, and then to help them, assist them as to when it's appropriate to use them. We're up to attend to precision. What's great about math is that, yes, you have to be precise. It's helpful to use the correct vocabulary. It's helpful that many problems do have one right answer. So there's not, well, if it's, 7 times 8 is going to turn out to be 56. There's just no way about it. And we can't argue that sometimes it's 55. No, not going to happen. We're going to create precise mathematicians. So they have to calculate accurately. It's exciting to find efficient strategies to arrive at those answers. And when you have discussions, you begin to elicit many different ways of solving those computations, which is exciting. My answer matches what the problem asked me to do. I can use math symbols. What's key is that they understand that an equation is balanced on each side. So whatever they place on the left, it has to equal the right and vice versa. And so when you're showing the way that students are solving problems, you want to make sure that your calculations are balanced too as well. And the communication is key, that we can speak and read and write and listen mathematically. Look for and make use of structure. As a former kindergarten teacher, this is what we started with, that patterns are all around us, and patterns can be the basis of our place value system, and it's exciting to predict what's going to happen next, but that's how we cluster things in organized groups, and that we can see and understand how numbers and spaces are organized and put together as parts and wholes. I think that's one that when we truly root students in clear number sense, we see the benefits later on as they move up the levels of math into algebra and more complex. So on the left is sort of an array of a multiplication problem, 13 times 15, and shows them working out partial products and understand the spaces that are in between as far as our geometric shapes. And I know this is a lot. I think we're getting towards number 8. And that's to look for and express regularity in repeated reasoning. And that kind of predict an efficient method of doing things, or, oh, this problem is similar to what I've done before, or it's slightly different, but I'm going to use that knowledge to help me solve this one. That's a repeated decimal, and they realize that that's coming forth, and just using that regularity and repeated reasoning is helpful. So you can see that there are 8 challenging tasks and proficiencies that we need to keep in the forefront of our brains as we are instructing our students. And I'll be able to share those with you. Okay. I'm going to go back to this is also in the frameworks. The standards are really not intended to just be new names for old ways of doing business. They're really called to take that next step. It's time to recognize that the standards are just promises we keep to our children, or promises we intend to keep. And standards by themselves cannot raise achievement. We realize that. Standards don't stay up late at night working on lesson plans. Or stay after school, making sure every student learns. It's you, the teachers, that do that. And standards don't implement themselves. The leaders from the state board to the building principals make sure that the standards are a reality in the schools.
And this was written by the authors of the Common Core. So I think it was really important to acknowledge that that's great we have standards, but it's teachers that bring them to life. And it's your hard work, staying up late, consulting with colleagues about a student that's struggling, designing lesson plans to meet the needs of the kids in your class. That's what's going to make a difference. So we just want to make sure that we acknowledge that.
Here are 5 essential understandings and big ideas in our Common Core that impact how you teach and how your students are going to learn. And Mary had gotten this from her experience about the 5 pillars for mathematics. And these do incorporate the standards for mathematical practice as well. We really want our children to know that they're going to be competent mathematicians. And they're going to use math, as I said, every day. And they really, it's going to be exciting because math makes sense and it's logical. So we want students to expect that math will make sense and that they draw upon what they know to solve problems. And we feel that productive use of discourse will help them to explain and justify their math thinking. So students are going to, as I said before, make conjectures, be able to defend their ideas, listen, and make sense of the reasoning of others. I think this afternoon we'll definitely address the third point for sure. It's that procedural fluency. When you instruct math, you do want to balance between the fluency of working with computation and the conceptual understandings for your grade level. So we want students to be flexible thinkers, accurate, and use efficient strategies. Develop a sense of what strategies look like, and then help them to decide which is the most efficient. We want them to be flexible and appropriate use of mathematical representations. We want them to understand math vocabulary. We want them to use it as they express themselves. We want them to be be able to model equations and show us their diagrams and work through problems. And we want them, the more that they do this, and the more that they share with us their efforts, they're going to become confident, and they will persist. And they'll be intrigued about the problem that you posed in the morning that doesn't get solved until the end of the next day. And hopefully they come with you with consistent kinds of efforts along the way. Anything else there, Mary?
Just to reinforce that this is what we encourage you to have in the back of your minds all of the time. Those 8 practices and the 5 basic pillars to be thinking about.
So I pulled this from one of the books that you'll receive, Using Math to Help Students Learn. And I liked it because I think talk not only exposes their accurate thinking, but it's also going to expose their misunderstandings and their flawed logic. And it can be used as a way of a formative assessment. If several students share with you something that's just slightly off and it's going to lead them down the path, and other students are agreeing with that student, that's okay, because then you already have a collective small group that you want to address, and at that moment sort of help them to understand that that might not just work the right way, and let's sort of continue, let's sort of change that up a little bit. So asking students to talk about mathematical concepts, procedures, and problem solving helps them understand more deeply and with greater clarity, but getting students to talk about mathematical ideas and procedures can bring to the surface the gaps in their understanding.
And I think when you saw the title of the workshop being Math Discourse, I remember hearing that term for the first time this summer. And discourse isn't something we usually encourage in our classrooms. We want everyone to get along and not be disagreeing with one another. However, when people do sometimes disagree, as long as it's done respectfully, it can help you come to a deeper understanding of the issue at hand as you listen to other people's ideas and try to justify why you think the way you think, and come to the answer to the problem. So I think you'll get a chance to experience some of that today, and we'll begin.
An author that I love that you probably are well aware of is Marilyn Burns. She has a published company, Math Solutions, where the Using Math Talk book is from. And she is a prolific author of journal articles as well as books. But the idea of our standards are really, they're essential, they're research-based. They are sort of aligned with sort of a backwards design model. So they started most likely in grade 12, thinking about what do students need to have in place for college and career readiness, and backwardly designed what each preceding level needed to have. So they're very coherent, they're very rigorous, they're internationally benchmarked, and so I think if we truly teach to those standards, we'll have a job well done. So Marilyn Burns talks a lot about, when we present a concept, all the underlying preceding kind of competencies that need to be in place to the understanding of that concept. So she describes it, compares it to the layers of an onion and peeling an onion. So consider, if you will, the computational task of learning to multiply 683 times 4. To be successful with that computation, the student really needs a set of skills underlying to be successful with that task. Think for a moment to yourself, what are those necessary conceptual layers to successfully solve 683 times 4? And then if you would, talk with your table mates or your elbow buddies, and what collectively do you think are the layers for a successful computational answer?